Mr. Thompson's house felt emptier than it ever had, even though it was bursting at the seams with 6 rambunctious children. Sarah, the eldest at 15, tried her best to keep things in order, but she was still a child herself, grappling with her own grief and the overwhelming responsibility thrust upon her. 10-year-old twins, Tom and Tim, were usually inseparable, finding solace in their shared games and mischief, but even their laughter seemed muted now. Emily, 8, was quiet and withdrawn, often found clutching a worn-out teddy bear that had belonged to her mother. Little 5-year-old Ben, too young to fully understand the permanence of death, would still wander through the house, calling for Mama. And then there was 3-year-old Lily, who mostly just cried, missing the warmth and comfort of her mother's arms. Their mother, bless her soul, had been the glue that held the family together. She had managed the household with a grace and efficiency that Mr. Thompson now realized he had taken for granted. He was a good man, a hard-working accountant, but he was utterly lost when it came to running a home and raising 6 children on his own. The house was always a mess. Laundry piled up, meals were haphazard affairs of frozen dinners and takeout, and the children often went to school with mismatched socks and unbrushed hair. Mr. Thompson tried his best, but he was exhausted. He worked long hours to provide for his family, and when he came home, he was too tired to do much more than collapse on the sofa. He knew he needed help, but he didn't know where to turn. He needed someone who could cook and clean, but more importantly, he needed someone who could bring some semblance of order and love back into their shattered lives. The children needed a mother, or at least someone who could offer them the nurturing and support they so desperately craved. Finding that person felt like an impossible task. The chaos in the Thompson household was legendary, at least among the neighbors. Toys littered the lawn, homework assignments were crumpled at the bottom of backpacks, and the aroma of burnt toast often wafted from the kitchen window. Mr. Thompson's attempts at discipline were inconsistent at best. One day he'd be strict, enforcing rules about screen time and bedtime, and the next he'd be too exhausted to care, letting the children run wild. His work suffered, too. He missed deadlines, came late to meetings, and often had to leave early to pick up a sick child from school. His boss, a stern but understanding woman named Mrs. Davison, had given him several pep talks, urging him to find a solution before things spiraled out of control. She even offered to connect him with resources for single parents, but Mr. Thompson felt too ashamed to accept. He wanted to be strong for his children, to prove that he could handle things on his own, but the truth was he was drowning. He tried hiring a series of housekeepers, but none of them lasted more than a week. They couldn't handle the mess, the noise, or the constant demands of 6 grieving children. One housekeeper even quit after finding a frog in the bathtub, courtesy of Tom and Tim. Mr. Thompson understood their frustration. He felt like running away himself sometimes. The children, sensing his despair, started acting out even more. Sarah rebelled, sneaking out to parties and neglecting her schoolwork. Tom and Tim's pranks became increasingly elaborate and destructive. Emily retreated further into her shell, spending hours alone in her room. Ben's tantrums grew more frequent and intense, and Lily cried almost constantly. Mr. Thompson knew he was failing his children. He just didn't know how to fix it. He felt trapped in a cycle of exhaustion, frustration, and guilt. He longed for the days when his wife was alive, when the house was filled with laughter and love, and when he felt like he was actually succeeding as a father. He needed a miracle, and he needed it soon. In a small cottage, nestled amongst a garden overflowing with roses and lavender, lived Mrs. Peterson. She was a woman of gentle smiles and quiet strength, her eyes reflecting a lifetime of love and loss. Like Mr. Thompson, she had known the sharp sting of grief, having lost her beloved husband, George, just a year prior. The silence in her once vibrant home was deafening, the absence of George's booming laughter and warm embrace a constant ache in her heart. She spent her days tending to her garden, baking pies for the local church, and volunteering at the library. These activities filled her time, but they didn't fill the emptiness within her. She missed having someone to care for, someone to nurture. She missed the feeling of purpose that came from creating a loving home. One afternoon, while browsing the classifieds at the library, she saw an advertisement that caught her eye, seeking housekeeper/cook for large family. Must be patient and loving. She hesitated for a moment. She hadn't worked outside her home in years, and the thought of managing 6 children seemed daunting. But something about the ad tugged at her heartstrings. She imagined the chaos and the sadness in that house, and she felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could make a difference. Mrs. Peterson wasn't just looking for a job. She was looking for a way to heal, a way to give back the love she still had to offer. She knew she couldn't replace the children's mother, but perhaps she could offer them some comfort, some stability, and a little bit of her own special brand of love. With a deep breath and a hopeful prayer, she decided to call the number listed in the advertisement. She had a feeling this could be the start of something new, something meaningful for both herself and the Thompson family. The prospect of bringing warmth back into a home filled with sadness spurred her on. Mr. Thompson, desperate for help, interviewed several candidates, but none seemed quite right. They were either too rigid, too inexperienced, or simply overwhelmed by the sheer number of children. When Mrs. Peterson arrived, he was immediately struck by her calm demeanor and warm smile. She didn't seem fazed by the toys scattered across the living room or the faint smell of burnt toast lingering in the air. During the interview, she spoke softly but confidently, sharing her experience in managing a household and her love for cooking. But more importantly, she spoke with genuine compassion about the children. She asked about their interests, their personalities, and how they were coping with the loss of their mother. Mr. Thompson found himself opening up to her in a way he hadn't with anyone else. He shared his struggles, his fears, and his deep desire to make things better for his children. Mrs. Peterson listened patiently, offering words of encouragement and understanding. She didn't offer empty promises or quick fixes, but she radiated a sense of hope that Mr. Thompson desperately needed. By the end of the interview, he knew he had found someone special. Mrs. Peterson, he said, "I know this is a lot to ask, but I think you might be exactly what my family needs. Would you be willing to take on the job?" Mrs. Peterson smiled warmly. "Mr. Thompson," she replied, "I would be honored." The next day, Mrs. Peterson arrived at the Thompson house with a suitcase full of her belongings and a basket filled with freshly baked cookies. The children were wary at first, unsure of this new presence in their lives. But the aroma of the cookies soon won them over, and as they gathered around the kitchen table, Mrs. Peterson began to work her magic, one delicious meal at a time. She started with simple, comforting dishes like macaroni and cheese, chicken noodle soup, and homemade bread. The children devoured the food, their faces lighting up with each bite. For the first time in months, the Thompson house felt a little bit warmer, a little bit brighter, and a little bit more like home. Mrs. Peterson's cooking was more than just delicious. It was therapeutic. Her meals weren't just fuel. They were an act of love. She learned each child's favorite foods and made sure to incorporate them into her weekly menu. Tom and Tim loved her crispy fried chicken. Emily adored her creamy tomato soup. Ben couldn't get enough of her chocolate chip cookies, and Lily always smiled when she saw Mrs. Peterson's colorful fruit salads. Even Sarah, the skeptical teenager, couldn't resist Mrs. Peterson's lasagna. Mealtimes became a sacred ritual in the Thompson household. Mrs. Peterson insisted that everyone sit together at the table, no matter how busy they were. She encouraged conversation, asking about their day, their hopes, and their fears. Slowly, the children began to open up, sharing their stories and their feelings. The dinner table became a safe space where they could laugh, cry, and connect with each other. But Mrs. Peterson's influence extended beyond the kitchen. She noticed that Sarah was struggling with her math homework, so she offered to help her after dinner. She patiently explained the concepts, breaking them down into smaller, more manageable steps. Soon, Sarah's grades began to improve, and her confidence soared. She saw that Emily was lonely and withdrawn, so she invited her to help in the garden. Together, they planted flowers, watered the vegetables, and watched the butterflies flutter by. Emily blossomed in the sunshine, her shyness slowly melting away. Tom and Tim, always full of energy, needed an outlet for their mischief. Mrs. Peterson enrolled them in a woodworking class at the community center. They learned to build birdhouses, bookshelves, and even a small wooden toy chest for Lily. Their creativity flourished, and their destructive tendencies diminished. Even little Ben, with his frequent tantrums, responded to Mrs. Peterson's gentle touch. She would hold him close, sing him lullabies, and read him stories until he fell asleep in her arms. He began to trust her, to rely on her for comfort and security. And Lily, who had cried so much since her mother's death, finally started to smile again, her eyes sparkling with joy whenever Mrs. Peterson was near. It wasn't just the cooking, it was the caring. Mrs. Peterson was slowly weaving herself into the fabric of the Thompson family, becoming more than just a cook. She was becoming a lifeline. Each child found a unique connection with Mrs. Peterson, a special bond that addressed their individual needs and filled a piece of the void left by their mother. Sarah, burdened by responsibility and yearning for guidance, found a confidant in Mrs. Peterson. They would often sit together in the evenings, sharing secrets and dreams over cups of tea. Mrs. Peterson offered Sarah advice on everything from schoolwork to boys, treating her with the respect and understanding she craved. Sarah began to see Mrs. Peterson not just as a housekeeper, but as a mentor and a friend. Tom and Tim, always seeking adventure and pushing boundaries, discovered that Mrs. Peterson appreciated their energy, channeling it into constructive activities. She would organize scavenger hunts in the backyard, build forts with them in the living room, and even let them help her bake cookies, albeit with a bit of flour ending up on the ceiling. She understood their need for play and gave them the freedom to be themselves, while also teaching them valuable lessons about responsibility and teamwork. Emily, still grieving and struggling with her shyness, found solace in Mrs. Peterson's quiet presence and gentle encouragement. Mrs. Peterson would read to her, paint with her, and simply sit with her in silence, offering a comforting presence without demanding conversation. She helped Emily find her voice again, encouraging her to express her feelings through art and writing. Ben, who missed his mother's warmth and affection, found a loving embrace in Mrs. Peterson's arms. She would cuddle him, sing him songs, and tell him stories about his mother, keeping her memory alive. Mrs. Peterson never tried to replace his mother, but she offered him the unconditional love and security he so desperately needed. And Lily, too young to fully comprehend her loss, simply knew that Mrs. Peterson made her feel safe and happy. She would follow Mrs. Peterson around the house, chattering and giggling, her tiny hand clasped tightly in hers. Mrs. Peterson treated Lily like her own granddaughter, showering her with affection and attention. Mrs. Peterson wasn't trying to be their mother, but she was offering them something equally valuable, a safe haven, a listening ear, and a loving heart. She was giving them the tools they needed to heal, to grow, and to rediscover the joy in their lives. She understood that each child was unique and needed something different, and she tailored her approach to meet their individual needs. The Thompson children were slowly but surely finding their way back to happiness, thanks to the quiet, unwavering love of Mrs. Peterson. Mr. Thompson, initially focused on the practical help Mrs. Peterson provided, slowly began to notice the profound impact she was having on his children. He saw the smiles returning to their faces, the laughter echoing through the house, and the sense of peace that had been missing for so long. He watched as Sarah's grades improved and her rebellious streak faded, replaced by a newfound maturity and responsibility. He observed Tom and Tim channeling their energy into creative projects, their pranks becoming less destructive and more playful. He witnessed Emily emerging from her shell, her shyness replaced by a quiet confidence and a love for the outdoors. He saw Ben's tantrums decrease, replaced by a sense of security and affection. And he delighted in watching Lily blossom, her eyes sparkling with joy whenever Mrs. Peterson was near. He realized that Mrs. Peterson wasn't just a cook and housekeeper. She was a caregiver, a confidant, and a friend to his children. She had brought order and stability back into their lives, but more importantly, she had brought love and hope. He started spending more time at home, eager to witness the transformation firsthand. He would join the children for dinner, listening to their stories and sharing his own. He would help Mrs. Peterson with the dishes, engaging in light-hearted conversation. He began to appreciate her warmth, her kindness, and her unwavering dedication to his family. He noticed how she anticipated their needs, always one step ahead, whether it was packing lunches, mending clothes, or offering a comforting word. He marveled at her patience, her ability to handle even the most challenging situations with grace and understanding. Mr. Thompson began to see Mrs. Peterson not just as an employee, but as an integral part of his family. He realized that she had filled a void he hadn't even known existed, bringing a sense of wholeness back into their lives. He was grateful for her presence, for the positive changes she had brought about, and for the love she had shown his children. He started to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, she could be more than just a housekeeper. He started to wonder if maybe he was falling in love. The moment happened unexpectedly, during a particularly chaotic morning. Mr. Thompson was rushing to get ready for work. The twins were arguing over a toy truck. Sarah was glued to her phone, and Emily was quietly drawing at the kitchen table. Ben, as usual, was clinging to Mrs. Peterson's leg, begging for a story. "Just a minute, sweetie," Mrs. Peterson said gently, trying to untangle herself from Ben's grasp. She was in the middle of packing Lily's lunchbox, humming a cheerful tune. Suddenly, Lily, in her 3-year-old innocence, looked up at Mrs. Peterson and exclaimed, "Mommy, I want a cookie." A hush fell over the kitchen. Mr. Thompson froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Sarah looked up from her phone, her eyes wide with surprise. The twins stopped arguing, their faces etched with a mixture of confusion and apprehension. Emily continued to draw, but her hand trembled slightly. Mrs. Peterson paused, her face softening with a mixture of tenderness and sadness. She knelt down to Lily's level, taking her small hands in hers. "Oh, sweet Lily," she said softly, "I'm not your mommy. Your mommy is in heaven, watching over you. But I love you very much, and I'll always be here to take care of you." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She wrapped her arms around Mrs. Peterson's neck, burying her face in her shoulder. "I want you to be my mommy," she mumbled. Mr. Thompson's eyes welled up with tears. He realized that Lily wasn't just asking for a cookie. She was asking for a mother. And in that moment, he understood that Mrs. Peterson had become more than just a caregiver to his children. She had become the mother they longed for. Mrs. Peterson held Lily close, stroking her hair. "I can't be your mommy, sweetheart," she whispered, "but I can be your friend, and I can love you like a mommy would." The tension in the kitchen eased, replaced by a sense of warmth and understanding. Sarah put her phone down and came over to hug Mrs. Peterson. The twins joined in, their faces softening with affection. Even Emily offered a small, shy smile. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "Thank you, Mrs. Peterson," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for everything." He knew that this was more than just a slip of the tongue. It was a sign of how deeply Mrs. Peterson had touched his children's lives. And it was a confirmation of his own growing feelings for her. He knew that he had to do something to acknowledge the love that was blossoming within his family. The change in the Thompson family didn't go unnoticed in the small town where they lived. Neighbors, who had once whispered about the chaos emanating from the Thompson house, now remarked on the laughter and the sense of peace that seemed to radiate from within. Mrs. Davison, Mr. Thompson's boss, noticed his improved focus and productivity at work, and she couldn't help but smile when he spoke about his children with a newfound sense of pride. The local baker, Mrs. Gable, who had known the Thompson family for years, often slipped extra cookies into their orders, commenting on how much healthier and happier the children looked. The librarian, Mr. Henderson, made sure to set aside books that he thought Emily would enjoy, noticing her growing love for reading. Even the grumpy old Mr. Abernathy, who lived next door and had always complained about the noise, seemed to soften his stance. He started waving to the children when they played in the yard and even offered to help Tom and Tim build a treehouse. The community recognized the positive transformation that Mrs. Peterson had brought to the Thompson family, and they offered her their support in subtle but meaningful ways. Mrs. Gable would bring her fresh bread, Mr. Henderson would recommend gardening books, and Mrs. Davison would offer her advice on raising teenagers. One afternoon, Mrs. Peterson was at the grocery store when she ran into Mrs. Nelson, a close friend of Mr. Thompson's late wife. Mrs. Nelson embraced her warmly, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Mrs. Peterson," she said, "I don't know what you've done, but you've brought this family back to life. They were lost without Mary, and you've given them hope again. We're all so grateful for you." Mrs. Peterson blushed, humbled by Mrs. Nelson's words. "I just try to do what I can," she said modestly. "Well, you're doing a wonderful job," Mrs. Nelson replied. "Mary would be so happy to see how well you're taking care of her children." Mrs. Nelson's words touched Mrs. Peterson deeply. She realized that she had not only found a new purpose in life, but she had also become a part of something bigger than herself. She was helping to heal a family, to bring joy back into their lives, and to honor the memory of a beloved mother. The community's support reinforced her commitment to the Thompson family, making her feel even more like she belonged. Just as things seemed to be falling into place, a challenge arose, threatening to disrupt the newfound harmony in the Thompson household. Mr. Thompson's Aunt Mildred, a stern and opinionated woman who had always been critical of his parenting, decided to pay a visit. Aunt Mildred had never approved of Mr. Thompson's marriage to Mary, deeming her unsuitable for their family, and she had made no secret of her disapproval. When Aunt Mildred arrived, she immediately began to scrutinize everything, from the cleanliness of the house to the children's behavior. She questioned Mrs. Peterson's role in the family, suggesting that she was overstepping her boundaries and interfering with Mr. Thompson's responsibilities. "John," she said sternly, "I understand that you need help, but this woman is just a cook and a housekeeper. You can't rely on her to raise your children. They need a proper mother figure, someone who is related to them." Aunt Mildred even suggested that Mr. Thompson should consider sending the children to boarding school, arguing that it would provide them with a better education and a more structured environment. Mr. Thompson bristled at the suggestion, but he knew that Aunt Mildred's words carried weight. She was a wealthy woman, and she had offered to help him financially in the past. Adding to the pressure, Mr. Thompson received a job offer from a company in another state. The offer came with a significant salary increase and the promise of career advancement. He knew that it would provide his children with a more secure future, but it would also mean uprooting them from their home, their friends, and Mrs. Peterson. Mr. Thompson was torn. He wanted to do what was best for his children, but he didn't want to jeopardize the happiness they had found with Mrs. Peterson. He knew that leaving would break their hearts, and he wasn't sure if he could bear to see them suffer again. He felt trapped between his responsibilities and his desires, unsure of which path to choose. The thought of losing Mrs. Peterson and disrupting his children's stability filled him with dread. He knew he had a difficult decision to make, one that would impact the lives of everyone in his family. Mr. Thompson, burdened by the weight of his decision, tried to hide his turmoil from the children, but they were perceptive and sensed that something was amiss. Sarah noticed his furrowed brow and his distant gaze. Tom and Tim observed that he was less playful and more preoccupied. Emily saw that he was eating less and sleeping poorly. Ben clung to him even tighter than usual, sensing his unease. And Lily, with her innocent intuition, kept asking, "Daddy, are you sad?" Finally, one evening at dinner, Sarah confronted him. "Dad," she said, "what's going on? You've been acting weird lately." Mr. Thompson hesitated, unsure of how to explain the situation without causing them distress. But he knew he couldn't keep it from them any longer. He took a deep breath and explained about Aunt Mildred's visit and the job offer. He told them about the financial benefits and the potential for a better future, but he also emphasized how much he valued their happiness and their relationship with Mrs. Peterson. The children listened in stunned silence, their faces growing pale with each word. When he finished speaking, tears streamed down Sarah's face. "You're not going to leave us, are you, Dad?" she cried. "You're not going to take us away from Mrs. Peterson?" Tom and Tim, usually so boisterous, were uncharacteristically quiet. They looked at each other with worried expressions, their eyes filled with fear. Emily began to sob softly, burying her face in her hands. Ben ran to Mr. Thompson, wrapping his arms around his leg and pleading, "Don't go, Daddy. Please don't go." Lily, too young to fully understand what was happening, started to cry, her tiny voice joining the chorus of sorrow. The kitchen was filled with the sound of their collective grief, a symphony of sadness that tore at Mr. Thompson's heart. No, I'm not going to leave you," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I promise I won't do anything that will make you unhappy." "But what about Mrs. Peterson?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "What will happen to her if we move?" "She'll come with us, won't she, Dad?" Tom pleaded. "Please, Dad," Emily whispered, her eyes filled with tears. "We need Mrs. Peterson. She's the only one who understands us." Ben looked up at Mr. Thompson with his big, innocent eyes. "We love Mrs. Peterson," he said simply. "She's our family." The children's heartfelt pleas resonated deeply within Mr. Thompson. He realized that he couldn't sacrifice their happiness for financial gain or appease Aunt Mildred's expectations. He understood that Mrs. Peterson had become an indispensable part of their lives, a source of love, stability, and joy. He knew that he had to make a choice, and he knew what that choice had to be. He couldn't imagine his life, or his children's lives, without Mrs. Peterson. That night, after the children were finally asleep, Mr. Thompson sat down with Mrs. Peterson in the living room. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. "Mrs. Peterson," he began, his voice filled with sincerity, "I need to talk to you about something." He explained the situation with Aunt Mildred and the job offer, confessing his internal struggle and the children's reactions. He told her how much he valued her presence in their lives, how grateful he was for everything she had done, and how deeply he regretted putting her in this difficult position. "I don't know what to do," he admitted, his voice cracking with emotion. "I want to do what's best for my children, but I don't want to lose you." Mrs. Peterson listened patiently, her eyes filled with compassion. She reached out and took his hand, her touch offering comfort and reassurance. "Mr. Thompson," she said softly, "I understand. You have a responsibility to provide for your children, and I respect that. But I also know how much they love me, and how much I love them. I wouldn't want to leave them, or you." She paused, taking a deep breath. "If you decide to take the job," she continued, "I'll go with you. I'll do whatever it takes to keep this family together." Mr. Thompson was overwhelmed by her selflessness and her unwavering commitment. He realized that he wasn't just in love with Mrs. Peterson. He admired her, he respected her, and he trusted her with all his heart. "I'm not going to take the job," he said firmly. "My children's happiness is more important than anything else, and they're not happy without you." He looked in her eyes, his heart overflowing with love. "Mrs. Peterson," he said, "I know this may seem sudden, but I need you to know how I feel. I'm in love with you. I love your kindness, your compassion, your strength, and your unwavering love for my children. You've brought so much joy back into our lives, and I can't imagine my life without you." He paused, his voice trembling with emotion. "Will you marry me, Mrs. Peterson? Will you become my wife and the mother to my children?" Mrs. Peterson's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't hesitate. "Yes, Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice filled with love. "Yes, I will." He pulled her close, embracing her tightly. He knew that he had made the right decision, not just for himself, but for his entire family. He had found love again, and he had given his children the mother they had longed for. The Thompson family was finally whole, thanks to the unwavering love of Mrs. Peterson. The news of Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Peterson's engagement spread quickly through the town, met with an outpouring of joy and support. The children were ecstatic, jumping up and down with glee, their faces beaming with happiness. They immediately started planning the wedding, eager to be a part of every detail. Sarah volunteered to be the maid of honor, taking charge of organizing the bridal shower and helping Mrs. Peterson choose her wedding dress. Tom and Tim insisted on being the ring bearers, practicing their walk down the aisle with unwavering determination. Emily, with her newfound confidence, offered to design the wedding invitations, creating beautiful watercolor paintings of flowers and butterflies. Ben, feeling like a big brother, took on the responsibility of keeping Lily entertained during the wedding preparations, reading her stories and playing games. And Lily, the littlest member of the family, simply wanted to wear a pretty dress and throw flowers. Aunt Mildred, initially disapproving, eventually came around, swayed by the children's enthusiasm and the genuine love she witnessed between Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Peterson. She even offered to pay for the wedding, wanting to ensure that it was a celebration worthy of the occasion. The community rallied together, offering their services and their support. Mrs. Gable baked the wedding cake. Mr. Henderson decorated the church with flowers from his garden, and Mrs. Davison helped Mr. Thompson write his vows. Everyone wanted to contribute to the happiness of the Thompson family, knowing how much they had overcome and how deserving they were of love and joy. Mrs. Peterson, overwhelmed by the outpouring of affection, felt like she had finally found her place in the world. She had not only found love again, but she had also gained a family, a community, and a sense of belonging. She knew that she could never replace Mary, but she could offer the Thompson children a lifetime of love, support, and guidance. She was ready to embrace her new role as a wife and a mother, and she was excited to embark on this new chapter of her life. The wedding preparations were a testament to the power of love and the importance of family, bringing everyone closer together and solidifying the bonds that had been forged in the face of loss and adversity. The wedding day dawned bright and sunny, a perfect reflection of the joy that filled the hearts of the Thompson family. The church was decorated with flowers from Mrs. Peterson's garden, their vibrant colors adding a touch of warmth and beauty to the sacred space. The pews were filled with friends, neighbors, and loved ones, all eager to witness the union of Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Peterson. The children were beaming with pride, dressed in their finest attire. Sarah looked radiant in her maid of honor dress, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Tom and Tim, impeccably dressed as ring bearers, managed to walk down the aisle without any mishaps, their faces flushed with concentration. Emily, holding her bouquet of wildflowers, smiled shyly at the guests, her newfound confidence shining through. Ben, holding Lily's hand, guided her down the aisle, his face filled with a sense of responsibility. And Lily, dressed in a frilly white dress, scattered flower petals with abandon, her laughter echoing through the church. As Mrs. Peterson walked down the aisle, Mr. Thompson's eyes filled with tears. She looked radiant in her simple but elegant wedding dress, her face glowing with love and happiness. He knew that he was the luckiest man in the world to have found her, to have been given a second chance at love, and to have given his children a mother they had always longed for. The ceremony was heartfelt and emotional, filled with touching vows and expressions of love. Mr. Thompson spoke about his gratitude for Mrs. Peterson's unwavering support, her kindness, and her love for his children. Mrs. Peterson spoke about her joy at finding love again, her commitment to the Thompson family, and her promise to always be there for them. When a minister pronounced them husband and wife, the church erupted in applause. Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Peterson shared a tender kiss, sealing their commitment to each other and to their family. As they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, the children showered them with flower petals, their laughter filling the air. The reception was a joyous celebration, filled with music, dancing, and laughter. The Thompson family was surrounded by love and support, their hearts overflowing with happiness. They knew that they had overcome many challenges, but they had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more united than ever before. They were a family, bound together by love, loss, and the unwavering belief in the power of hope. Years passed, filled with laughter, love, and the everyday joys and challenges of raising a large family. The Thompson household, once filled with chaos and grief, was now a haven of warmth and happiness. Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Peterson, deeply in love, created a strong and supportive partnership, guiding their children through adolescence and into adulthood. Sarah excelled in school, eventually graduating from college and pursuing her dream of becoming a teacher. Tom and Tim, still inseparable, started their own woodworking business, crafting beautiful furniture and home decor items. Emily, her shyness long forgotten, became a successful artist, her paintings capturing the beauty and wonder of the natural world. Ben, with his kind and compassionate heart, dedicated his life to helping others, working as a social worker in the local community. And Lily, the baby of the family, blossomed into a confident and independent young woman, pursuing her passion for dance. Mrs. Peterson, now affectionately known as Mom by all the children, continued to be the heart of the family, offering her unwavering love and support, her gentle guidance, and her delicious cooking. She taught them the importance of kindness, compassion, and perseverance, instilling in them a strong sense of family and community. Mr. Thompson, watching his children thrive and his wife's happiness radiating throughout their home, knew that he had made the right decision all those years ago. He had chosen love over ambition, family over fortune, and happiness over everything else. He had learned that loss can lead to unexpected blessings, that family comes in many forms, and that the power of love can heal even the deepest wounds. The Thompson family story became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the transformative power of love, and the enduring importance of family. They had shown the world that even in the face of tragedy, hope can prevail, love can conquer all, and families can be built on the most unlikely of foundations. They had found happiness in the most unexpected of places, proving that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as ordinary people, offering ordinary acts of kindness, but making an extraordinary difference in the lives of those they touch. The Thompson family became an inspiration to their community, showing that love, in all its forms, truly can conquer all. The story of the Thompson family serves as a gentle reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can blossom and love can find a way. It shows us that family isn't always about blood relations. It's about the people who choose to be there for us, who support us, and who love us unconditionally. It's about the connections we forge, the bonds we create, and the memories we share. Mr. Thompson's initial despair and the children's grief seemed insurmountable, but the unexpected arrival of Mrs. Peterson proved that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as ordinary opportunities. A simple advertisement for a cook and housekeeper led to the creation of a family, a testament to the power of human connection. Mrs. Peterson's journey, from a grieving widow to a beloved wife and mother, demonstrates that healing is possible, even after profound loss. She found purpose and joy in caring for the Thompson children, giving them the love and support they needed to thrive. In return, they gave her a family, a community, and a renewed sense of hope. The Thompson family story teaches us that love can conquer all, that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that families can be built on the most unlikely of foundations. It encourages us to open our hearts to those in need, to offer our support to those who are struggling, and to embrace the power of human connection. It reminds us that loss is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define us. We can choose to learn from our experiences, to grow from our challenges, and to find happiness in the most unexpected of places. We can choose to create families that are based on love, respect, and mutual support, regardless of blood relations. And most importantly, it reminds us that even the smallest acts of kindness can make a world of difference in the lives of others. Mrs. Peterson's decision to answer that advertisement changed the lives of the Thompson family forever, proving that sometimes all it takes is one person, one act of love, to bring hope back into the world. So, let us all strive to be that one person, to offer that one act of love, and to make a difference in the lives of those around us. For in the end, it is love and connection that truly matter.